Unfortunately, I got some bad news to share. Second-year linebacker Drew Sanders tore his Achilles in off-season workouts, and that's going to knock him out for a big portion of the 2024 season. So we're going to break down the news, and we'll kind of go through what this means for Sanders and the Broncos. But Mike Kliss from 9 News was the first one to report that Sanders suffered a torn Achilles during some off-season workouts before the draft, which I think is important to note because with that information, the Broncos probably altered their draft strategy a little bit, going with a guy like Jonah Ellis, for example, in round 3 out of Utah. Now, the good news is Sanders is really young, 22 years old. So bouncing back from an Achilles tear is a lot easier when you're younger than when you're older. He also underwent successful surgery, and people estimate that with medical science at this day and age, it's about a 6 to 8 month, maybe a 9-month recovery for a torn Achilles, which if it's 9 months, he's going to miss the entire 2023 season, or 2024 season. If it's 6 months, well, we can start counting the months out together, right? May, June, July, August, September. Look at me, guys. I'm at October, 6 months. Maybe he comes back around October or November. The issue is, I don't think Sanders is at a level where he can just miss all of OTAs and minicamp and training camp and preseason and be ready to roll in November. Like Baron Browning last year came back a couple of weeks into the season in October, but he was a much more established player at that point. We didn't see enough from Sanders last year to believe like this is a guy that can miss a lot of time and just be a plug-and-play player come November despite missing all of training camp. So for his development, this is a real bummer. And on top of that, he's out there competing for a job in snaps, and all of a sudden a rookie like Jonah Ellis, he's going to have a 6-month leg up on Drew Sanders. And if Jonah Ellis is doing a great job serving in that pass rushing committee and rotation from the outside linebacker position, there may not be a very large role remaining for Drew Sanders, who needed to earn that role in the offseason. And that opportunity has now been robbed from him. So I want to show the guy some love. Spam his jersey number 41 down below in the comment section. I'm sure this has just been brutal and has sucked for him, and I can't even imagine what that's like. So just want to show the guy some love, wish him a quick and speedy recovery. Type 41 down below. Now, as I was saying, when you look at this from the Broncos standpoint, I mean, Drew Sanders was kind of a tweener. Was he an inside linebacker? Was he an outside linebacker? The direction was they were going to move him to outside linebacker. And you already had Cooper, Browning, and Nick Bonitto, and then you drafted Jonah Ellis. So it was a bit crowded all of a sudden at outside linebacker, right? You had 5 guys competing for like usually 3, maybe 4 roles. So not a bad problem to have some depth at that spot, but now it's pretty cut and dry as to who the top 3 to 4 outside linebackers are. Of course, it was always the returning starters like Baron Browning, Jonathon Cooper, Nick Bonitto. But now the battle between Jonah Ellis and Drew Sanders for that 4th spot, it's been decided. It will go to Jonah Ellis. And unfortunately for Denver, this draft class, it's way too early to judge, of course, because they've only played 1 season. But the Broncos had 5 picks in the 2023 draft, and albeit very early, and Sean Payton is a coach that does not go to his rookies early on, but last year there was very little production from the rookie class. I mean, Marvin Mims, like leading the way, 384 snaps offensively. Jaleel McLaughlin, a UDFA running back, had more than Riley Moss, J.L. Skinner, Alex Forsythe, all guys that were drafted. So unfortunately, this is a bit of a blow to the development of the 2023 Broncos draft class, and never really clear on what Drew Sanders' role would be on defense. Was it an inside linebacker or outside linebacker? But he needed the reps in training camp to kind of answer that question for himself and the coaching staff. And rookie year is the most important year to get those reps, but the next most important year would probably be your second season in the NFL. And unfortunately for Sanders, that's not going to happen. So He's going to miss the next 6-7 months, and the hope is that he can return in October or November, and he can help this Broncos team that hopefully at that stage will be in the thick of things and competing for a wild card or division spot in the playoff race, as we're going to be heating up at that stage in the season. But once again, Drew Sanders suffering a torn Achilles during some off-season workouts before the draft, underwent successful surgery, and that puts him in line for hopefully a mid to late season return, but nothing's a guarantee. There's going to be a long rehab process ahead of him, and the only silver lining is if you're going to suffer a torn Achilles, better to have it in April than in August when it really knocks you out for the entire season. And as for the rest of the linebacker room, I mean, just a little bit more added to the plate of Jonathon Cooper, Browning, Bonitto. Them not so much. It's Jonah Ellis that I think is going to be someone that sees a larger role now for their rookie season because they're kind of the next man up, right? If something happens to Cooper, Browning, or Bonitto, who's the first guy off the bench? It's likely going to be the rookie from Utah, Jonah Ellis, which means Browning and Cooper and Bonitto, a little bit more pressure added to their plate as to there's just no room for error, right? There's just not a lot of great depth and proven quality depth behind these guys. And I like Jonah Ellis a lot, but at the end of the day, these are rookies, so nothing's a guarantee. Drew Sanders last year, 24 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. He was primarily a special teamer for this team. He had a fumble recovery. Wasn't that on special teams play? Maybe I'm misremembering. Regardless, he did have a couple of starts towards the end of the season, especially when Josie Jewell was battling injuries along the way. But Drew Sanders ultimately had a really small role in his rookie season. Hey, that's fine. That's not something you can point to as this guy's not going to be a good NFL player. But when you have a small role your rookie year, that just means your second season you're supposed to have a really big, launch party. And that party has now been delayed to October or November. And it's not easy to have a launch party middle of the season because you need that to happen in training camp and preseason when you've got time to practice and you're not going from week to week where play on Sunday, film on Monday, get ready Tuesday for the next week, right? You don't have that opportunity to get the much-needed practice reps to learn the position and hone your craft as a young player in the NFL. So best of luck and best of wishes to Drew Sanders, second-year man out of Arkansas. I think that's a 2022 second-round pick. That was a typo on my end. He was a third-round pick last year. Marvin Mims was the last pick of round 2, so I'm sorry for the typo, everyone. I'm going to regret that. But that's the news. If you're looking for a Broncos YouTube channel to keep you up to speed on all things Broncos, hit the sub button down below. We're going to keep you guys informed and entertained throughout the entirety of the 2024 NFL season.